next speaker is the creator of the Lisa Project, Hardin.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for inviting us here this evening. We appreciate being here and being able to support those stories. We really appreciate being here to be able to tell awareness and education to help deal with adverse childhood experiences in a way that maybe you have not seen before. 13 years ago this month, we debuted the Lisa Project in Stockton. Obviously, you heard it said already, April Child Abuse Prevention Month. It's always a big deal for all the advocates every month around the country. And the Lisa Project was created out of a want to say, and I don't mean to offend anybody when we talk about the pinwheels or the ribbons that we wear, but in that moment in San Joaquin County, we were always watching or having somebody wear ribbons, but maybe after a week or so, they really couldn't regurgitate why they were wearing the ribbon or exactly, oh yeah, it's Child Abuse Prevention Month, and then things went on. So it came out of a desire of wanting to impact people in such a way that they couldn't forget about it. We see every sad story on the news, we read it in the paper, we talk about it around the water cooler, and then on Monday morning, maybe we're not talking about it anymore. So that's kind of how it was birthed. There's a lot more story to that. One of the things that happened as we were developing the Lisa Project is at the time, one of my sons was 20 years old. I have two sons, one's 32 now, and the other one's 26. And at the time, the 20-year-old, he looked at my wife and he said, why would anybody want to go to an exhibit about child abuse or child abuse prevention? And you know how when you get in the thick of something, right? You're so ingrained in it. We didn't actually consider that. What if nobody shows up? What if they don't come to this exhibit? We just wanted to be all about awareness and education, and maybe nobody's going to show up. Well, I can tell you 5 weeks later was the first run of the exhibit, and about 5,500 people later, we thought maybe we might be onto something with the Lisa Project. We call it TLP for short. The Lisa Project has traveled now the length of this great state. We've been in a lot of counties from Southern California through Northern California. Not all 58 counties, unfortunately, but we'll get there someday. The story has reached as far as New York City and parts of the Midwest, including Iowa and Illinois, parts of Nebraska. And we even have an exhibit like you're going to walk through tonight in Calgary, Canada. So I guess people did want to see an exhibit about child abuse and child abuse prevention. The original exhibit that some of you have been through already in Stockton actually takes about, we call her Big Lisa, by the way. That one takes about 25 minutes to walk through. So if you bear with me, I'm going to tell you a 25-minute story. Don't worry, it's not going to take me 25 minutes to tell you the story. But it's a story about someone's experience after walking through the 25-minute exhibit that I want you to hear. I'm going to tell you about a lady by the name of Shelby. A lot of us have in our communities leadership programs. Stockton is no different. So we have Leadership Stockton. And so we have the groups that go through that. They're very civic-minded, civic leaders. They participate in courses. They learn about the city. They learn about different businesses in the city. And then there's a nonprofit day. And some of the groups are then brought to the various nonprofits, and they learn about the nonprofits. And at CAPC in Stockton, they get to tour the Lisa Project. And so we had a lady by the name of Shelby who then toured with her group through the Lisa Project. And she came out the other end and was very moved. And she wrote my wife an email the next day. Incidentally, my wife is one of the ladies right back there holding her phone up. Hi, everybody look at her and stare at her. She is the executive director of our Child Abuse Prevention Council in Stockton. And so she wrote an email to my wife, and she said, I just want to tell you about the experience that I had walking through the Lisa Project yesterday. You see, my husband and I have been trying to have children, and unsuccessfully. We've done everything. We've had the counseling, fertility, doctor's appointments, all the things, and we've been trying and we can't have kids. And she said, I went through the Lisa Project and I heard these tragic stories, and I walked out of the Lisa Project and I immediately called my husband. And I said, I know what we have to do. And they begin the long journey of foster to adopt a group of 3 girls, siblings, in San Joaquin County. And they are now a family of 5 years later, right? And she said to my wife, it was 25 minutes that changed my life. Now, that was Shelby and her husband. And tonight you're going to walk through a 10-minute version of the Lisa Project. We call her TLP in 10. It takes a little bit longer than that, about 11 and a half minutes actually. Don't hold me to the 10 minutes. So now I'm going to tell you a 10-minute story. Don't worry, it's not going to take me 10 minutes. We oftentimes have this exhibit at high schools. We've had a hotel conference room, so we partnered with Kaiser and had it in Kaiser facilities and so on. So, and you'll see as you walk in the black box theater, the size of it, it's a little bit different. But nonetheless, we had it at a local high school in Stockton, and a young lady went through, and every time we have the exhibit placed somewhere, we have counselors available, whether that's MSW level or whatever. We have people available to gauge the mood of people and talk if they need to, make reports on the spot. People disclose, we're there, we're ready, right? In a very trauma-informed way. And especially now as we become more educated about, as Chief said, the adverse childhood experiences and everything that kids are dealing with these days. We had a young lady go through, and she was one of the ones we didn't catch afterwards. But she left there, and she identified with a lot of the things in the exhibit in her own life and her own household. And she subsequently, I think that was her sophomore year, but it made her realize that she needed to get out of that abusive situation, and how she never entered the system, but she bounced around from location to location and finally landed with a bio grandparent, I think. My wife can nod in the back if that's correct. I think that's right. And but she needed that. She knew that she needed to get out of there. Now, fast forward a little bit later. It's college age. My son is in college. This young lady is in college, and they start to date. And they're in drama together. They do the drama stuff at college, and it's all fun and all the things. And one night he has her over for dinner, and she says to my son, "Did you tell your dad?" And he says, "No, I thought you were going to tell him." And she begins to tell me her story about walking through the Lisa Project at her high school a few years earlier, and what it meant to her and how she knew she had to get out of her situation. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. Like, I'm really happy for you. And then she's since gone through therapy, continues the therapy, all the things, right? To heal what's going on with her now. And because of her past. Fast forward again. My son decided to marry that young lady. And that was 2 years ago. And 8 months ago, they had our first grandchild. Oh no, this is great. Because if there's any grandparents in the room, I'm telling you, you know what I'm talking about, right? She's the first one. And when I say she hangs the moon, her name is actually Luna. And we just couldn't be more proud and more excited for our kids. Adverse childhood experience is what my daughter knew and learned, and my granddaughter is never going to experience in her life. So I'm going to take you on a fast forward trip again. They live in Washington, and a few months after Luna was born, we decided to take a visit, go see her, hang out for a little bit, and the ladies went off shopping or mani-pedi, I don't know, whatever they were doing. And so my son and I were hanging out with Luna. We were in charge, and let me just tell you, I would drop everything right now and go be in charge of that little baby anytime anybody wants me to. She's pretty magnificent. But she's this little thing, right? Grandparents, you know this, right? And mommies and daddies, you know this. There's this little thing on my chest, and we're sitting on the couch and we're watching TV, and she's asleep, and it's like this perfect moment, right? And it hits me. I look over at my son and I said, "You realize something, right?" He goes, "What's that, Dad?" And I go, "Your daughter is the product of a broken cycle of abuse." That ought to make you applaud right now. Thank you. Community involvement and impact, adverse childhood experiences. Trauma hurts the brain, but it can be healed, right? So we're not here to just show you and impact you about things that you're going to see and stories that you're going to hear. Here's the sad side. The sad side is those stories never change. They're true in every county we've ever been in. They're true in Canada. They're true. And it's unfortunate. It's horrible. But we all have the power to change that. I've given you 2 stories out of hundreds of stories I've heard over 13 years about impacting the lives of people and turning their lives around and being healed or getting out of situations they knew. Where's our speaker? Where did she go? She ran away. What was her name? Monique. Like Monique, that she got out of there, right? She survived. And that's the beauty of it, right? So we're able to turn this around and be impactful. And I hope that's what you see tonight. I hope that you're impacted. So much so that you turn around, you take the message of Lisa, and you tell somebody else, and we heal just one more. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Before we bring on our last speaker, I would like